Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I'm sorry we are a few minutes late. This program is, of course, in English, but I would like to begin by saying a few words in Persian because this work is being live streamed and there are people all over the world, hopefully in Iran, watching this film. You can hear? I'll speak louder. ما خجالتی هستم اول صحبت. ببخشید. نه نخندین واقعیت میگم. این برنامه در شرایط دشواری برگزار میشه. در 4 هفته اخیر زنان و مردان ایران با توحشی روبرو هستند در شهرهای ایران که کم نظیره. و ما این شب رو به یاد کسانی که در این سالها و در این هفته ها جان خودشون را از دست دادند برگزار میکنیم، به خصوص به یاد توحشی که در دانشگاه شریف اتفاق افتاد. دانشگاه شریف برای دانشگاه ما مقام ویژه‌ای داره. برخی از برجسته ترین استادهای ما در اونجا درس خوندن، بسیاری از برجسته ترین دانشجوهای ما از اونجا آمدن. به یاد اونها و به یاد همه کسانی که جان خودشون از دست دادن، به ویژه به یاد 5 نفر این شب رو به یاد اونها برگزار میکنیم. خانم مهسا امینی، سارینا اسماعیل زاده، نیکا شاکرمی، پریسا اسماعیلیون و ریرا اسماعیلیون. We are having this program in the middle of what has been a month-long battle between brave women and men of Iran and a brutal regime that has unleashed its hateful wrath on the people. Just a few days ago, we saw in horror the attack on Sharif University, where many of our best students and some of our faculty, including Professor Maryam Mirzakhani, come from. We dedicate tonight to the memory of these people and particularly 5 women killed by this regime: Mahsa Amini, Sarina Ismailzadeh, Nika Shakarami, Parisa Ismailion, and Rira Ismailion. I would like to ask all of us to stand in silence for a minute in their memory. Thank you very much. Art, they say, transforms the private experiences, agonies, anxieties of the artist into a public moment of grief, joy, empathy, or defiance. Dr. Esmaeilion, a dentist by vocation, a writer by both vocation and avocation, is also, in my view, a master of the art of politics. He will be with us again on October 29th in a Zoom webinar to talk about his recent works of fiction. Our poets, from Ferdowsi and Hafiz to Rumi and Saadi, all knew a thing or two about love. They have long talked about the majesty of love, its endless joys, and how at least part of our humanity is defined by our ability to love. But they've also cautioned that only those who can also suffer the almost inevitable agonies of love should enter into this ennobling realm. Dr. Esmaeilion is exemplary of someone who loves selflessly, suffers nobly, but then transubstantiates the suffering into a global movement for justice, for accountability, and ultimately for helping end the arrogant despotism of the clergy in Iran. Speaking only for myself, I have been humbled by his Job-like ability to suffer, his Carver-like determination to seek justice for himself, the families of those who suffered in the shooting down of the Ukrainian jetliner, but also his attempt to save Iran from this despotic clutch. The quiet power of his dignity and humility, his dedication and discipline have helped him turn this search for justice into a movement to end the injustices whose victims are the whole nation of Iran. The singular success of demonstrations on Saturday, October 1st, in over 150 different cities and attended by tens of thousands of concerned citizens and diaspora Iranians is a testimony to the power and appeal of his humble, focused, steadfast, selfless dedication to the cause of justice and accountability. He has literally and metaphorically reawakened the Iranian diaspora for the task at hand. Talking about this diaspora and its enduring attachment to Iran, Babak Payami, whose film we are going to see, his life is indicative of the gravitational power of Iran and the ability, indeed the desire, of so many Iranians to not forego their attachment to the old country and indeed marshal their considerable intellectual, financial, or artistic capital in the service of creating a better tomorrow for Iran. Although he has spent much of his adult life in Europe and Canada, and he could easily, like I suspect many of you in this audience, forget about the constant agonies and occasional ecstasies of engagement with Iran and decide to live a life of exilic comfort. Yet, he has dedicated much of his career to be concerned with Iran, promoting the best of Iranian culture and warning about the dangers of clerical despotism. We showed his brilliant film, Secret Ballot, last night. It has been remastered and has been chosen by Canada as one of the great filmic treasures of that country. Of course, it's great treasures of Iranian cinema, but let Canada have it for a while. The film, prescient in its wisdom, is available on Sony Classics. His latest project is the film we are about to see. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Esmaeilion, who will read sections of his memoir. Then we will watch the film, and after the film, there will be occasion for you to ask questions, both from him and from the director. We humbly ask you, in fact, we demand from you, not to film the film. Please don't turn on your cameras when the film is on. The film has to be not shown publicly, and it is a great occasion for us to see it. So we beg you, we ask of you, we demand of you, don't film the film. Thank you, Dr. Esmaeilion.
Thank you. متشکرم. خیلی ممنونم از همه شما. خیلی ممنونم. خواهش می‌کنم. خیلی ممنونم. مرسی. Thank you very much, Dr. Milani, and your great team for inviting us here. I say a few words in Farsi. سلام میکنم به همه شما و من هم یاد میکنم از تمام قربانیان هفته‌های اخیر و یاد میکنم از جسارت و شجاعت مردم ایران و تغییری که میدونیم اتفاق خواهد افتاد. I'm just talking about my memoir before we see the film. At the night that they shot Flight PS752, I was like doing the final touches of my novel, but I waited for a year or more to see what I can do with those books. So I published them in Farsi in Canada, and they're here. I don't have any more copies. I'm so sorry, but it's available in Canada and hopefully soon in the United States. There were 3 books. One is A Summer with 5 Bullets, The Fractured Diaries of a Chancellor, and the last one, It Snows in This House, which is a memoir of a survivor. I'm just going to read a part of the first chapter for you. It has 5 chapters, and the first chapter, I dedicated this book actually to my wife, Parisa, and to my daughter, Rira. So the first chapter is Parisa. I was standing under the shelter of a tall mountain. It was August 2021, exactly 20 months and 8 days since the crime took place. I have traveled far to reach this mountain that others considered beautiful, from Toronto to Sault Ste. Marie, then to Thunder Bay, and on towards Winnipeg, from there to Regina, and finally to the small town of Canmore that is located in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. It must have been about 4,000 kilometers. It wasn't hard to believe that I had traveled aimlessly for thousands of kilometers to stand before this gray mountain surrounded by heavy fog and tall trees. A storm was rumbling deep within me, and a fire was burning in my heart that I doubt will ever subside. I was looking for them along the way. I would turn my head towards the passenger seat so I could see her like I always did. I would reach behind towards the rear seats and curl my fingers, which meant, "Give me your hands," and she would put her hands in mine. It would have been an excuse to respond to a feeling I had or something either of the two might have said. But both seats are empty. Other than the wind whirling past the car and the whipping clouds, there was nothing for me. I cried, I screamed, and from a certain point along the trip, I was unable to listen to the songs. I even lacked the concentration to stop along the road beside the lake and stare at the scenery. I just drove and drove until I could get lost somewhere. Further south of Canmore, there was a mountain road full of trees that I tried to avoid. The people, children, the tourist atmosphere. I was avoiding anything that seemed crowded and joyful. The day before, at the small sandwich shop, I felt breathless, staring at the young man's hands wrapping the sandwich so he can finish the damn thing and give it to me. I know what takes my breath away, how it happens, by hearing which words, songs, or sensing which tastes. It could grab onto me at any moment or anywhere, but after finishing the sandwich in my hotel room, I thought, I must get out of these walls. Staying at the hotel was useless. It wasn't a cheap hotel, and it felt like I had to stay in that room forever and look out of the window aimlessly at the mountains, the people, and cars. The Alberta forest fires over the last few days had filled everywhere with dust and smoke, and there wasn't even a distant scenery to sit and stare at. After finishing the sandwich and my decision to leave that hotel room, I finally left. The town was nearly empty of people. Whoever was visiting the town had other plans other than to roam around these streets. Some of them were professional mountaineers who would leave early in the morning with their gear. Some of them were foreign tourists who wanted to visit Banff, probably to take pictures in front of the beautiful lake. I don't know, because I have never been there. But it seems as if some would stand in line so the person in front of them would finish taking pictures so they could stand in front of their camera as if they are the only ones there. I have seen enough of these things in my life. I've observed scenes like this in many different places around the world. In front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, where people would crowd around so that despite the commotion of street vendors and the skilled painters, someone would take your picture with you alone. In front of the Charles Bridge in Prague, when hundreds passed by, or the Sheikh Lotfullah Mosque in Isfahan, with the echoing sounds of horse carriages. in the forests of northern Iran during the 13th day of New Year, with clusters of picnicking families filled the silence with their roaring laughters, or the Tobermory Lake in northern Ontario, where it is not easy to take a picture alone in front of the pure blue water. There were others beside the mountaineers and tourists, like sailors with their boats, large families, or that couple from Ontario sharing a cigarette who probably signed up on some nature tour before their vacation days expired. There was a confusing intersection in front of the hotel with separate traffic lights for pedestrians, and cyclists would signal for turning right or going straight. I waited beside two girls who were lost inside their warm overcoats. My outfit wasn't that appropriate. Neither my shoes or my coat was useful in the cold mountain town. I followed the same paths that I had planned on the map and wandered about for some time. I couldn't stop and look into any of the art galleries. I couldn't visit any of those souvenir shops where we used to visit for shot glasses with the town's name on them. I couldn't step into any of the restaurants of or the pubs along the way. I felt like sitting for a cup of tea somewhere, but the previous night's bitter experience of weeping in the corner of the hotel restaurant bothered me. I was worried to be singled out again. I couldn't, but I continued to walk. Inside the town, there were alleys lined with carefully designed villas along forest roads where one could easily get lost. Granted, one might come across a local tennis court with people running about it, or some cyclist would pass by, or another would be walking their dog, but feel alone nonetheless. One could say that I was alone. The next day, I stood under the shelter of a high mountain beside a river that seemed more real than the streams around it. I stared ahead, but couldn't tell what I was staring at. Was I staring at the houses? I don't know. Was I staring at the mountains ahead? I don't know. Was it the boats that passed by 10 minutes earlier? I don't know. I don't even know what I was thinking about. Could it have been the bride and groom with their bad choice of modest waterfront for their wedding? I don't know. Was I staring at the hotel attendants who refused to wear masks during the peak of pandemic? I don't know. It was around that time that a thought crossed my mind, as if a wound opened and two gaping holes gasped in my heart. Where is she? I asked myself. Where are they? I asked myself. I imagined Parisa walking with me hand in hand in these blind alleys, just like those times, like the long walks in our own neighborhood, like the first time I held her hand near Tehran's West bus terminal. I imagined her in her usual calm quietude, and I imagined Rira running ahead of us and calling back towards us, "Mama and Baba, look what I found," and how she would enjoy the sight of her daughter. Maybe Parisa would call back, "Bring it here, let me see," and maybe I would say, "Be careful, darling, the rocks are sharp." Maybe writing this book is merely a compilation of ambiguous images. Maybe writing this book is the result of a stagnation and solitude of hearing the light sound of the river that was twisting and turning forward. Whatever it was, I was immersed deep in a conversation with Parisa, hand in hand with her without looking at her face, an internal conversation with her that was never this clear during the past 20 months and 8 days. You didn't try hard enough. Believe me, I tried as hard as I could. I don't know what else I could have done. She looked at me in silence. I knew what she wanted to say. I don't want to share you with anyone else. That was my pact with myself from the first day. You and Rira must be mine forever. I reneged occasionally because I couldn't breathe. But later, when I got a hold of myself, I said, "You must remain for me only." Could anything be done? Yes, there could. Yes, all of those love letters could be published. It would be possible to be in a glass house. More than this, it would be possible to throw all of our private life on the table. All of those films and photos could. It is not necessary. It is not necessary to publish all of those films and pictures. Just look at the path you have walked today. I looked, believe me, I did. What did you say to yourself? I said, where is she? So I could take her hand, so I know I'm not alone. I said, where is she? So we could share the joy of looking at the firecracker running off into the bushes or behind a rock, so we can break out in laughter. You were everywhere, but you weren't. Couldn't you just say that? That I should have been, but? Does that mean I should write? Write about what? The people want a hero. They want a hero in the stories. But I'm not a hero of stories, neither are you. We are regular people. I was a regular man and you were a regular woman and Rira was a regular little girl. Nothing in our life was extraordinary or strange. Or am I just imagining or imagined that it wasn't strange? Wasn't it strange? Wasn't it strange that we didn't reach Toronto? It was, not strange but horrific. Even the thought of it shakes me to my core. You're not coming, you're not arriving, you're murder. At least you could have written about that. I could, I can. But all of those stories would be about me. But you are important, you are lost, you are brutally murdered. Why should I keep writing about myself and the pain I endure? You know how to write. You can write in a way. Writing needs sitting down. I can't sit still. The time will come. Then you have no complaints? Then you think I should start? If I write it, it will be a book about the world of the dead for the world of the living. Maybe the other way around, from the world of the living for the world of the dead. She was about to cry in my mind. She knew I can't bear her tears. The way her lower lip would jitter, and I knew her eyes would tear up in a few moments. Just like any two friends who would argue, I was unkind to her, but at this moment, as she is about to cry, I feel that if I don't go and embrace her, I could not forgive myself for the rest of my life. But how? How? I think a man just rode past me on his bike. I flicked my cigarette away, then picked it back up to throw it in a bin somewhere. Resistance was futile. I decided. I reminded myself of how this love story began on the 13th of November, 1999. Thank you very much.
Before we entertain the first question, I'm going to ask Babak to say a few words about the process of making the film and the experience, till we then have a chance to listen to the questions and have you answers.
Thank you. I'm not jittering about, I'm just trying to see if I can get rid of this feedback with the sound. Arbi? Thank you very much, Dr. Milani. First of all, I must thank Stanford, the Iranian Studies program, yourself, your team, for being such gracious hosts and having us here. This is the first time this film is being shown out after the Toronto Film Festival release of it, and I'm honored to be here, especially with you and amongst you. This film, I never set about to make a documentary about this project. It was sort of a calling. Everybody, I'm sure, remembers the morning of January 8th when the news of the downing of flight PS752 came about, happened. And I was, at that time, a volunteer artistic director of Tirgan in Toronto. And I immediately got calls that a few of the volunteers who helped in Tirgan were on that flight. And we immediately scrambled together to set up a memorial. And at that memorial, a friend approached me and mentioned if I know Hamid. I knew him by name, we've never met. And he told me that he's going back to Iran. Obviously, he's on his way back to collect the remains of his wife and daughter. And that was the beginning of a relationship that essentially I was asked to help liaise for him until he managed to bring the remains of his wife and daughter back. We met. I think we had a lot in common. I sort of felt desperate and helpless, and I thought whatever I can do to help. It was a sense of duty to get involved and participate. There's nothing we can do to alleviate their pain, but do whatever we can to be there for them. But eventually, it became that he's a writer, I'm a filmmaker, and it was inevitable that we have to document this, memorialize what's happening. And that was the gestation of a documentary that we never set out to make, from a relationship that both of us wish we wouldn't have had under these circumstances.
Well, first of all, there are two lines you could ask questions. This line formed first. Go ahead, please. And my request, humble request, is that you ask questions, and if you're going to make comments, make them no more than 2 or 3 sentences, because there are a lot of people who want to ask questions. Please.
با نام ریرا، با نام مهسا، با نام پریسا، جناب دکتر اسماعیلیون، من از طرف همه این حضار و از طرف تمام کسانی که واقعا در این چند وقته اخیر فعالیت کردن ازتون تشکر میکنم برای همه زحماتی که برای جاستیس کشیدید. من فقط چند کلمه میخوام بگم، سوالی ندارم. To those authorities that they are sitting and hearing my voice in this hall. Fire, fire, fire. Fire is in the house. This is something that all of us should know. We know as Iranian, and we tell you. 44 years ago, they showed us their smile and their teeth. After 44 years, this is the result. They are coming for you. If you don't stop them, they are coming for you. If you do any negotiation with them, if you give any penny to them, it will actually use against us, against the people, against the family of innocent families in Iran. I think this is the voice of all people in this hall. So please listen. Thank you so much.
I have to say that as a result of the demonstrations, I think the Biden administration was forced to rethink its policy. They have now officially announced that till these demonstrations have found their consequences, they're not going to negotiate with this murderous regime. So those demonstrations are very important. Sorry. Please.
Thank you. I'll ask my question in English. First of all, thank you for this important film, and my condolences. Much was said in this film, but I feel like more wasn't. And my question is about the things that wasn't said or weren't said in the movie, and I would love if you could enlighten us with your thoughts. I am aghast at lack of action from the Canadian government, and without knowing the details, I wonder if there is something behind the curtains that's stopping these seemingly democratic countries to stand up more firmly against injustice. You have more direct experience and detailed knowledge of this particular case. Please help us understand why the governments of our nations that we chose to live in ignore and don't act more firmly. Thank you.
You want to answer the first part, what was said in the film, what was not?
Well, in terms of, it was very easy. I'll do the film part, and Hamid will do the other part. It would have been very easy to fall into the trap of making a whodunit film and going around that circle of conspiracies and thinking. And it took a lot of discipline for us to concentrate on the core of the matter, which relates to what you're saying. Much was said, but a lot wasn't said. And the film posed the questions. The film demonstrated what the families are going through, showed what they're going through and how frustrated they are. And structurally also in the film, I should mention this, that a documentary, there's a famous quote from Werner Herzog. It says, the documentary filmmaker should never get involved in his subject matter. Well, I think 5 minutes after Hamid and I met, I threw that cardinal rule out the window because my sense of responsibility, duty to get involved. And I wrote somewhere, I said I was like a fly on the wall, but of the wall of a smoldering oven of pain and emotion. And I just fell into it, and I couldn't help but get involved. And the film structurally shows this fly in the wall behind the camera asking the questions, and then eventually steps in front of the camera and gets involved. And partly I was hoping that the audience identifies with my dilemma of how I should leave that role of the fly in the wall and get involved, roll up my sleeves and get involved and help find the answers, help compel the governments, the authorities, the international organizations. And part of why there are so many unanswered questions has to do with how much we engage. And in the evidence to the fact is that with the formation of the Association of the Families and the activities that the families have done, a lot has been done. And it shows that if the people get together, if the people unite around a cause and a mission, they can drag it out of every government, even if it has to be by demonstrations and rallies. So to wrap my part up is the film, for me, had to work on various levels. One is getting you involved, as I got involved, in what can we do, because this story hasn't finished. This film doesn't have an end. It's just sort of midway through. And the second part of it was to pose all the questions, exactly what you're asking. Why are Western governments not swift enough in responding to regimes like Iran and the crimes that they're committing? And I'll pass it on to Hamid for the rest.
Thank you, Babak. It's very difficult to explain the last 34 months in 2 minutes. Now, you saw part of the meetings that we had with the government, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. We had probably more than 80 meetings. We have written more than 300 letters. We have had meetings with aviation and military experts, legal experts, more than 250 meetings. And this is just part of it. Imagine the meetings that we had among the families. I'm happy that one of the family members, Dr. Bali, is here, that she lost her brother, so, and she's a board member of the association, and she knows very well what we went through to convince this government, a government of Canada, that they have to seek justice for the victims. But the major problem here, I think, is the mindset of the government, both sides, the legal teams and the officials, the elected officials. I think the core of, justice actually for me and for families is a process. Justice is not a contract. The governments, they look at justice as a contract that they have to win that case in the court. But for us, it's a process to stop the crimes and to keep the memories of the victims alive, and down the road have a court, regardless of winning or losing. The elected officials, the mindset of them was about negotiation with Iran. And actually, that was a part of the process of going to the International Court of Justice. If you want to go to International Court of Justice, there are 3 stages. One is negotiation in good faith. The other one is arbitration in International Civil Aviation Organization. And the third one is going to International Court of Justice. 5th of January 2022, the 4 affected countries that they said the negotiation is futile. And now we have to go to the next step. But now it's 10 months has passed, and they haven't gone to ICAO. And now you see some movements in the government. You see that finally they put sanctions on some of the perpetrators of this crime and other crimes that they committed in Iran. And you heard about IRGC. That wouldn't happen without uprising and without the revolution that is happening in Iran. That wouldn't happen. I can confess to you, that was the power of the powerless that changed things. There were days that only the families of the victims, they gather. You saw that in the film, 25 of us in each city because of the coronavirus and because of the issues. I mean, it was very difficult to bring people together, but now you see there are thousands, tens of thousands of people. And I think this consistency of seeking justice of the families, and not only PS752, Bloody November families, 1988 families, Green Movement families, all of them, I think, they had a big effect on the affected countries. This road hasn't ended, and I'm sure in near future we are going to be in IKO, and I'm sure not far from today we are going to be in the International Court of Justice.
خیلی خوش آمد بهتون میگم آقای اسماعیلیون به شهر ما، به ایالت ما. ما نسل برایه هستیم با شعر شروین و 1 اکتبر در تاریخ ما به اسم برایه حامد باید ثبت بشه و ممنونیم که ماها رو با هم متحد کردید. تو سان فرانسیسکو بالغ بر 20,000 نفر جمع شدم و مطمئنیم که روز 22 اکتبر همپای شما که در برلین هستید ما پرشورتر و با شکوه در سان فرانسیسکو جمع میشیم و از حرکتی که شروع کردید حمایت خواهیم کرد. 2 تا سوال از خدمتتون داشتم. My first question is
اجازه نیست متن شما رو برای دوستان غیر ایرانی ترجمه بکنم یا خودتون بگید لطفاً.
So I just admired Hamid for what he did in gathering all Iranians around the world. So in more than 150 cities on October 1st, there has been a demonstration in every city, including San Francisco. More than 20,000 people get together, and we're going to support you on October 22nd in San Francisco, and we're going to have a huge march in San Francisco. I hope everyone can join us. So I have 2 questions, for both of you. First question is for you personally. How did you transition from having that grief and disaster to become a leader to support a lot of people who had stories similar to you but never been able to talk about that? And the second is, do you have any other information about PS752 that was not showed in that movie? So is there anything else that you can share with us while we are here? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I answer the questions, I think the 1st of October was a teamwork. It was not only me. There's a group of civil activists in Toronto that they organized that. They started that from Toronto, and a big team. I can tell you probably 40, 50 people were involved in organizing that. We trusted everyone. When we got a message from San Francisco, we said, okay, publish the poster. I think just one picture changed everything, and that was a poster, and I'm very grateful to work with this team, and this is Association of the Families and the civil activists and all the volunteers that are helping us. About how you changed the grief to this transition that you asked. I don't know if I have to say unfortunately or fortunately, I had done a lot of research about justice before PS752. That was one of the reasons that I hated literature for a while. My last novel, actually, before PS752 was shut down, was A Blue Toucan. This is a story of an Iranian refugee who comes to Toronto and gets familiar with a Chinese woman who has lost her son in Tiananmen Square. And this Chinese woman tries to find other families and goes to the crime scene and talks to the experts. It was very strange for me when this happened. It was kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say that was a prediction, but I knew that. I had read about MH17, I had read about Lockerbie, and I remember the time that I was in my mother-in-law's backyard. I was thinking, this is a long and painful journey, but we have to do it. And at that time, I was thinking, I'm alone. I was thinking that I'm alone, I'm the only one. But when I came to Canada, I noticed that there are hundreds of families like me. And they're as committed as I am. And then we formed the association. And I'm the spokesperson of the association. That's why you see me more than others. But it doesn't mean I'm the only one who works. And all these family members are dedicated to this cause. I forgot your second question.
Was there any, do you have more information that was
More details.
Okay, more details. Of course, I do.
Would you like
But there are details about the case in Iran. These two informants that you saw here, how many informants we talked to, Babak? Do you remember?
A dozen,
I don't know.
maybe
So
more.
there were a lot
among the
of,
many.
this one, I'm sure that somebody will ask about the informants, so let me answer that question too. The one that was talking about Russians and the black box and things like that, it was a legit one. And we gave all this information to the Canadian government and the federal police of Canada, but they decided to not open a criminal case. So we wanted to go to that country, hire a private investigator, and it didn't happen. But the second one was a fake one, who asked like $75,000. And I told that in Calgary, another city, Babak, that he sent me actually the letter. Everything was perfect. The literature of the letter, the content, everything was so real that you couldn't deny that this is from Iranian regime. But he put the wrong date on it. So then I said, sorry, man, we can't. And he started to insult me, actually. Well, you don't believe, I just trusted you. And I said, I don't tell you what was the reason, but this is fake. So we have letters from Ali Khamenei, we have letters from Hossein Salami, we have tons of them. And, but we had legit people too, that we have to wait for an investigation or for a courtroom, for court day to explore more and reveal those information.
Look, a crime of this magnitude is not something that we should sit down and hypothesize over. A crime of this magnitude, and one of the threads in the film, is within 5 hours after this crime was committed, after flight PS752 was shot down, and bulldozers instead of investigators and international investigation teams were sent to the site, and the crash site was demolished and cleared up, not to speak of intimidating the families, not to speak of harassing and arresting witnesses and reporters and journalists and documentary filmmakers, not to speak of a multitude of other things that took place within the first 24, 48 hours. And the question that we keep asking and the families keep asking, and I hope the film helps multiple more people ask, is why isn't there an international, legitimate, credible, impartial international investigation body sitting down and investigating what happened? And why has it taken 3 years, and it's more possibly, for that still yet to happen? And it just baffles the mind. Notwithstanding the international regulations, ICAO says if an airplane crashes in a country, whoever territory that is, the investigation has to happen by that country. Well, it never accounted for the fact that the country shoots down the plane themselves and that conflict of interest. 3 years, not a single international lawyer has managed to fix this problem or address this problem. And that is the question.
I have one clue to why countries don't pursue it. Because the Iranian regime will take hostages, as they did in the case of
Yes.
every European country.
Yes.
And
One of them
it's
is sitting here in the room with us.
It's the mendacity of these governments who negotiate with these hostage takers and teach them that they can get away with it.
Yes.
Belgium is about to return one of these criminals to Iran because this regime has taken hostage. This is a hostage-taking regime. It was from day one, and the international community, virtually every country, accommodated. Sorry.
Thank you. Dr. Esmaeilion, I have a very personal question for you. And it's with a very heavy heart that I'm going to ask this question. During this documentary, you several times mentioned that you want to seek justice and bring closure. My question, as I watched the documentary and the ending, is that has your definition of justice and closure changed since this tragedy occurred? And did it change in accordance with events in the world, like the war in Ukraine, like the demonstrations in Iran today? And has the stakes and your demands changed alongside those world events? And because, as I mentioned, it's with a very heavy heart that I asked this question from you, I couldn't help but to think the suffering that you have gone through and was shared with us in this documentary, what you feel your daughter and your husband and your wife would feel concerned for your health during this time, and your parting words in this documentary that you will never give up. Thank you.
Thank you. You said that it's a very personal question, so I have to give you a personal answer. I start from the last part that you said. What do they think? I'm an atheist, so I think there's nothing after death. And that's why I think they have no feeling. That's what I feel. And justice is for me, for families, and for the society. They are gone. This is something that Albert Camus says actually at the beginning of one of his masterpieces, that justice is not for only the victims, it's for us, most importantly. And in this journey for justice, we relied on people all the time. Canadians, Iranians, Americans, everywhere. People were like the only way, only place that we could rely on. And still they are. Yes, we want to take this to International Court of Justice, first of all for the truth, and second for justice. You saw in the film that we have said no to compensation, we have said no to an apology. There are 5 demands that the affected countries have from Iran: apology, compensation, truth, and giving back the belongings of the passengers, and then the
guarantees never to happen.
Yeah, the guarantee that it's not going to happen. And I laughed to at least 4 or 5, all of them. And I said, do you really think that Ali Khamenei is going to apologize you? Do you really think that he's going to do that? Okay, good luck. But now, honestly, when we are pursuing this way to International Court of Justice, I have a bigger hope that we are going to have a trial in free Iran very soon.
حامد جان، من شروع میکنم با یاد پریسا، ریرا و تمام قربانیان پرواز 752. ضمن این که میخواستم ارتباط بدم صحبتی که توی فیلم شما کردین در اون ویدیو کانفرنس، گفتین که این ریپورت رو دادین به خود مردرر که اینوستیگیت کنن و اینکه یک اینترویوی من شما شنیدم که ازتون سوال میکنن چرا فراخوان برای ایران نمیدین و میگین به خاطر معذورت اخلاقی. منظورم اینه که مسئولیت اخلاقی و اینکه من در ایران نیستم و واقعا هم قابل درکه. من یادم میاد وقتی شما شروع کردین با اون نثر زیبا می نوشتین داستانها رو بر اساس احساس اون موقع، مفهومی که من ازش گرفتم این بود که چون اشک گلو گیرد از ابر فرو بارم، چون خشم رخ افروزد بر ساوقه افروزم. و اینکه شروع کردین از دادخواهی به عنوان سخنگوی دادخواهی قربانیان پرواز 752 و اینو ادامه دادین با وجود اون روزنهای کوچیک امید که میگفتین به روزنهای بزرگتر رسیدین تا زمانی که با تیمی که میگین به عنوان رهبر همبستگی ایرانیان خارج از کشور شروع به فعالیت کردین. من اینو میگم به عنوان رهبر، نه به عنوان شخص، چون الان خوشبختانه خرد جمع به جایی رسیده که دیگه یک نفر رو جلو نمیندازن که بعد پشیمون بشن از رفتارش. ولی اینو میخواستم بگم که یک کوتی از کوینسی ادمز میگه که if your actions are inspiring others to learn more, to dream more and to do more, you must become more because you are a leader. And what I'm going to say, as I said, نمیگم شما به عنوان لیدر، ولی شما more and more من جلو. الان زمانی که we need the most for changing this regime. And what is happening now, این چیزی که من الان میخوام بگم اینه که اگر شما تو تورنتو، من 20 سال قبل تورنتو برای چند سال زندگی کردم، اگه تونستین در تورنتو که خودتون میدونین جمعی از فعالان اصلاح طلب، عوامل جمهوری اسلامی و خفتگان سیاسی و اجتماعی فراوونن، تونستین 50,000 نفر بیان تو خیابون، شما تو تهران 5 میلیون میارین بیرون. فقط من و دوباره میگم من منظورم شما فرد نیستین، تیمی که دارین کار میکنید. پس اینو من بهش اعتماد دارم که این کاری که شما میکنید اگر در این جهت برین جاستیس، شما نمیتونید تو دادگاه هیچ جا بیارین بیرون، اینا رو نمیتونید به میز محاکمه بکشید، اینا باید سرنگون بشن. شما هیچ دادگاهی نمیتونید تا زمانی که اینا در قدرتن. فقط با این شعر تموم میکنم، میگه که با این شعر تموم میکنم، میگه گر سوختنی باشد افروختنی باید، گر سوختنی باشد افروختنی باید، این نغمه بزن بر من از شعله نترسانم.
I want to translate the parts that was not translated for the people who are here. I apologize. Sometimes our friends go into language that they're more emotional about, but we owe you a translation. He began by offering his condolences. He praised his fiction. He quoted from his fiction where he talks about how tears can sometimes create grief, but anger can sometimes change reality. And then he talked about how he now has, Dr. Esmaeilion, a unique position in bringing together the Iranian diaspora. He referred to a question that somebody had asked about Dr. Esmaeilion to issue a call for essentially people to come to the streets in Tehran, and he refused. He says, I know that they will be met with bullets. I can't take that responsibility. So he then quoted Adams. You heard that you're now the de facto leader of bringing the community together, and you must act according to what your new position is, rather than what your moral anxieties are.
Do I need to answer that? Yes, what do you think? Okay, thank you very much for what you said. Yeah, I think what's happening in Iran is a revolution. I think probably all of you believe in that now. This is different, and there's a lot of hope. We discussed this internally a lot about that question that was asked and the answer that I gave to the people. And honestly, I still believe in that. And and I said we need more time. We need more time. That's for sure. Yes, everybody is optimistic about revolution, but I think it may take a little time to get to that point that we all say that we are ready. What I want to say, we are families of the victims. That's the first position of us. One of the first things that I wrote in my Facebook page, I think that was day 2nd or day 3rd, I said, my identity has changed. I was Hamid Esmaeilion before this, but now I'm the one who lost his wife and his daughter. I'm still the same person. And my duty, and the association duty, and the families of the victims' duty, first of all, is to stop more crimes, to stop more families to grieve. And that's why I talked about civil activists and the political activists. I didn't want to blame anyone who is a political activist and who thinks that this is the best way to do something, or ask people to come to the street. And this is the nature of the political activism. But as a civil activist who seeks justice and who wants to protect more lives to be shattered, actually, and not seeing other people like ours, our life, I mean, families of the victims, I think they should stand in a way that somebody fights for morality, for ethics. And this is our position, I think, in this fight. Yes, one day, if we are gonna say that people in Iran come to the street, be sure that morning I'm in Tehran. I won't change that mindset. I will be in Tehran that day. And I think we have some time to get there. So somebody said on Twitter, okay, next time is in Berlin. Who knows? Probably the 3rd one would be in Tehran. So we're getting closer from Toronto to. But let's wait and see what happens.
Greetings all. Dr. Esmaeilion, it's an honor to be in your mere presence. I wanted to say how much I am in awe of your sincerity, resilience, and devotion to justice. First thing that I want to ask is actually kind of a pleading that, if you would, sir, get a security detail. You are one of our most valuable assets for this revolution, and we need you in tip-top, perfect health. Also, I believe that the majority of my second question was already asked by our previous patrons, so I would just say this. I know that you, sir, never asked for any of this to happen, but it did. And now that it has, there are very few shoulders who could carry this burden, and yours is one of them. And please, you showed the world that the time has come. People have seen it, we saw it, and everybody is going to see it as it keeps going. So please consider this maybe a little bit further. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have limited time available. I apologize. Because of the role of woman in all of this, I think you as a woman should have the last question.
Okay. قبل از هر چیز آقای دکتر خواستم از شما تشکر کنم که به ما ایرانی‌ها ققنوس‌وار زندگی کردن و آموختین که چجوری از خاکستر خودمون پرواز کنیم و اوج بگیریم. واقعا ممنونم ازتون. شما الان فرمودین که هویت شما عوض شده به هویت مردی که همسر و فرزند نازنینش رو از دست داده. من میخواستم بگم هویت شما الان برای ما کاوه آهنگر زمانه ماست. من از شما یه کمکی میخواستم. میدونم که شما جنگ نابرابری رو جنگیدین این مدت. متاسفانه ما در آمریکا ارگانیزیشنایی داریم که بازوی سیاسی جمهوری اسلامی هستن و ما نه تنها با جمهوری اسلامی در ایران باید بجنگیم به طرز نامردی، یعنی هر جوری که شما فکرشو بکنین ناعادلانه اینجا هم باید هم با هموطنهای خودمون که نمیدونن پشت این چهره‌های بشردوستانه چی خوابیده و اینکه هم با خودشون که مرموزانه میخوان راه پیدا کنن تو جمعای ما، تظاهرات‌های ما و برنامه‌های ما رو خدشه‌دار بکنن. من میخواستم از شما هم فکری بگیرم که ما چجوری میتونیم این جنگو ببریم. ضمناً این که ببخشید از آقای دکتر میلانی هم عرض ارادت یه سوالی ازتون داشتم. شما هفته آینده یکی از اعضای نایاک رو در اینجا دارید، آقای رضا اصلان، که ایشون در وبسایتشون مشخص سوابقشون. من فقط میخواستم از شما خواهش کنم که در مورد در این برهه بحرانی هر ایرانی در مورد این خواهش میکنم فکر کنید. یعنی جای همچین آدمای
I have to first translate her question, and then I will offer a brief answer, and then he will. She first said that you have taught Iranians to act phoenix-like and rise from fire, and you say you don't want to be political activists, but you are now a kaveh for our time. So you need to take this moment seriously. What she then said is that what we face in this country, in America particularly, I think it's also true in Canada, a number of organizations that claim to be activists for human rights, that claim to advocate for Iran, but are de facto arms of the Islamic Republic. They sometimes mingle in our myth, they come to our demonstrations, and how can it be, how is it possible for us to part and fight with these people? How can we show the Iranian community the true face of these? And then the question, that part I think you asked in English, right? Reza Aslan. And then the question was, why in this particular moment have you invited Reza Aslan? The answer to that question is we didn't invite him in this particular moment. We invited him many weeks before. We planned these things, including the event tonight. Pardon me? Look, listen, this, please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Sir, please sit down. This is a university. This is not a shouting center. If we decide that we need to cancel it, we will cancel it. But I'm trying to tell you that this was, first of all, something that was planned before. Reza Aslan is an academician. This is an academic institution. Listen. Shouting, sir, sit down. We respect your right to speak, and you should respect the solemnity of this place. This is an academic institution. Shouting is not going to get you anywhere. I know people are dying, sir, or if there was a lady who said it, and I know what NIAC is. I have talked, I have written about what these institutions do long before any of you talked about it. You read what I have written, read what I have talked about, the role that these people have done.
Let me answer the second part of the question. Yes, you talk about NIAC, and I totally agree. And we have the same problem in Canada and probably the same problem in European Union, that there are people that their only duty is whitewash the crimes that the Islamic Republic of Iran commit. So the only recommendation I have is, what we learned is they love to use beautiful words like peace, diplomacy, and negotiation and things like that. My recommendation to everyone, when you see peace and diplomacy somewhere, think twice.
I don't have much to add.
So the last question, please.
Question. No, it's related to this.
No, we don't have time, unfortunately. I said that was the last time, but because there is now...
So my question is actually, I was going to ask exactly the same question that she asked. And thank you very much for making my life easier, so I'll keep it short. They tried to break our unity. We had a member of this so-called organization showing up in our demonstration last week. And we cannot afford to let them to have the audience and to speak and to break our unity. So if you have the opportunity to cancel this, please, please, please make your best to do it, because we think we are in this together. Do not let us think otherwise. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you have looked at our programs, not just today's program, but the history of the last 10 years program, I can tell you now categorically, unambiguously, unabashedly, there is no university, no Iranian Studies program that has stood up to this regime more forcefully, more openly than Stanford Iranian Studies. None.
Can I add something? You know, I'm sure that Dr. Milani would think about that, but you know, I want to share something with you. When I was in Canada, you know, this summer, going city to city to talk about my books, I assure you they were university professors that they didn't invite me. But their only duty is research about Iranian literature, and contemporary literature. And they knew that I'm going to that city, but unfortunately they had to cancel, or they have to say, sorry, we can't. And I'm very happy that I'm here, and thank you for that, Dr. Milani.
حامد جان، موقعی که ما این خبر رو خوندیم هممون تیکه پاره شده بودیم. هرچی بیشتر میخوندیم چه مغزایی توی این هواپیما بوده، چه PhD هایی، چه مستر دیگری هایی، چه دانشمندایی توی این هواپیما بوده، بیشتر واقعا قلبامون تیکه پاره میشد. و من همیشه میگم دشمن انقدر احمقه که با دست خودش از این ور میزنه تو گوش خودش، انقدر احمقه که یه دونه پاسبون رو نمیگیره بکشه یا حتی گوشش رو بکنه بگه این مهسا رو کشته و الان 4 هفته است مملکتش رو با آتیش کشیدیم، هنوزم تو حماقتش داره ادامه میده، بده نفت خودش میرزه رو آتیش ما. و هیچ وقت کسی فکر نمی‌کرد که این 40 خورده ای سال اینا این همه آدم گمنام از اعدام‌های 60، از آبان خونین، از کوی دانشگاه، از نداها، این همه بچه‌ها کشته شدن و این بچه‌ها همه داخل ایران کشته شدن و بی‌نام بودن. این بار تیرتون خورد به هواپیمای اوکراینی که دادخواهانش توی کانادا بودن، دستشون به مقامات بین‌المللی میرسید، مغز این کارو داشتن، منسجم شدن، تشکیلات تشکیل دادن و بر علیه شما بلند شدن. کار بزرگی که شما کردین، نه تنها این تشکیلات رو تشکیل دادین، بلکه من همیشه پشت سرتون گفتم حامد اسماعیلیون و تیم PS 752 نتورک دادخواهی بود. یعنی حقیقتا هر متروپولی که تو ایران ریخت پایین بعد از حادثه هواپیما شما برای اونها هم دادخواهی کردین. شما صدای بی صدایان در ایران شدین و به اونها این دلگرمی رو دادین که شما هم میتونین متشکل بشین و منسجم بشین. از حضور گرم تمام خانواده‌های 752 واقعا تا آخر تاریخ ایران ما از شما متشکریم. میخوام یک کلمه دیگه میخوام به شما بگم، نه از نایاک بترسین، نه از نوچه‌هاش، نه از هیچ کدومش. چنان جنبشی را افتاده، چنان موومنتی را افتاده، چنان رودخانه‌ای شناور شده که همه رو میشوریم و میبریم.
I again have to buy the she began by said we want to return to the strategy. Your organization has done something that no one else had done. You have created a network for justice, and that network has become the voice of the voiceless, and that network has now led to people going back over the course of these 40 years, 44 years, and all the people who were killed by this regime, whose names were never known anywhere. We owe you a great debt. We owe you a debt of gratitude. And then she ended by saying, don't worry about Nayak and its little minions. The movement that has started, the river that has begun to flow is going to wash all of them aside.
Can I add one sentence here? So today,
نه خانم.
Okay, so I answered that question, but the last question, so this 22nd of October, we are going to be in Berlin and hopefully thousands of people again. I know I hear people coming already, and but this is not the end of the story. I think very soon after that, probably, I don't know how many weeks after, we are going to have another global movement like what we saw on 1st of October. There's a group of civil activists, that Babak is one of them, I'm one of the group, and we are working on it. And this time, I assure you, we are going to be more careful. We had issues in number of cities, out of 150. I can tell you probably 5, 6 cities that we have to do more research and contact organizers. This time we will do it more carefully. But you saw that tens of thousands of people came to the street, peaceful demonstration with no issues. And we showed to the world that we are peaceful people, and this is the way to convey the message of Iranian people to the world. About the organizations and you talked about Nayak and other organizations. Today, you all know, this is a good day today, actually, because they put Javad Zarif named in the sanction list. This is what we have been asking for months and for years. And hopefully, this list is going to be completed. Hopefully, we see the name of Khamenei and Raisi very soon on that list. Thank you.